3 spine-chilling true spring horrors revealed, unexplained nightmares from the cursed season in a seemingly peaceful suburb of Columbus, Ohio. The air thickened with anticipation as spring approached. Flowers bloomed, but there was something sinister lurking beneath the surface. Sarah, a weary single mother, could feel it. It squeezed her stomach, held her heart hostage. Her children, 9-year-old Lily and 7-year-old Jake, couldn't sense the unease that haunted her. To them, the annual spring festival was just around the corner, a world of carnival games, cotton candy, and laughter. But for Sarah, the festive spirit felt like a facade, and the whispers of dread sent chills down her spine. "Mommy, I had another nightmare," Lily confessed one afternoon, her voice quavering in the late afternoon light. Sarah's heart stopped. The little girl had been having nightmares about a shadowy figure that stood by their window, just out of sight. Her instinct pushed her to smooth the tangled hair from Lily's forehead, assuring her with a calming embrace. But inside, anxiety twisted her gut. Such visions crossed into realms she couldn't articulate. Dismissing her fears as the fantasy of youth, Sarah kept a brave face, yet shadows began creeping into her peripheral view. As the festival neared, Sarah noticed oddities, figures standing unmoving by the edge of their yard, staring through the window as if probing for something inside. The neighborhood had morphed into an eerie pocket where unease settled like morning fog. The usually vibrant chatter of kids had dulled, replaced with an unsettling quiet, and she couldn't shake the sensation of unseen eyes trained on her family every time they walked outside. One sleepless night, she stumbled upon news reports that turned her stomach sour. Dark tales of families disappearing during past spring festivals flooded her mind, stories of laughter punctuated by silence, swallowed into oblivion without a trace, all dismissed as legends. Yet, the festival banners hung brightly, masking the chilling truth plastered on local news. The scent of funnel cakes drifted into her dreams, but the laughter echoed hollow, a ghostly sound taunting her sensibilities. She felt suffocated, the celebration morphing into a trap. In her growing paranoia, Jim, the neighbor with the friendly smile, suddenly seemed too interested in her children. He offered to take Jake to the festival games, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. Sarah's stomach twisted at the thought, instincts flaring to life. "No, thank you," she replied, heart racing. Instead, she arranged for Jake to go with a group, pretending to be the fun mom, yet every laugh felt like a dagger twisting deeper. As the festival evening shimmered with lights, a thick, sinister darkness enveloped their street. Voices rose, excitement filled the air, but Sarah's world shivered underneath the weight of impending doom. When she realized Jake was missing, panic ignited. Her frantic calls to the police produced little urgency. They dismissed her fears as a lost boy caught up in the thrill of the festival. Desperation clawed at her as she surged through the crowd, her heart pounding louder than any celebration. Shadows danced around her, laughter felt sharper and more sinister, and the realization of what lingered in their neighborhood ripped at her gut. Then came the horrifying revelation about Jim. His charm obscured a monstrous past, an entanglement with the very folklore that had haunted their town. With trembling hands and clenching fists, she confronted him, and as the pieces fell into place, she understood that the darkness lurking at the edges of their lives was no longer just a nightmare. It was all too real now. What would she uncover beneath the carnival's colorful facade? Would she reclaim her child from the shadow that had taken hold? The thrumming pulse of the festival surrounded Sarah as she shoved her way through the throng of revelers. Every laugh rang like a chime of doom, echoing her worst fears. The festival lights flickered with a sinister rhythm, casting erratic shadows that seemed to claw at her as she pushed forward. "Jake!" she screamed, her voice swallowed by the cacophony. Panic painted her panic-stricken face, the terror of losing him like a wet, cold shroud. Her breath hitched as she scanned the crowd. Children darted about, chasing one another, blissfully unaware of the darkness that tasted on the edges of their laughter. Where could he be? The thought slithered into her mind, a whisper that coiled around her throat. She turned a corner and stumbled into the game area. Kids stuffed with candy clutched plush prizes, their hands sticky yet joyful. But in the middle of it all was Jim, his smile stretched wide, too wide, a predator among prey. Jake sat on a bench, his eyes dazed, staring blankly ahead as if the laughter had robbed him of his spirit. "Jake!" Sarah lunged forward but was halted by Jim's hand gripping her arm, too tight, too familiar. "He's just having fun," he insisted, his voice low and soothing, though desperation writhed within her. "Let him be." "No. I need him," she cried, striking at his hand, which felt like ice. Jake blinked, slowly, as if awakening from a dream. Was it a nightmare? Her heart raced as she yanked away from Jim, pushing through the laughter and bright lights, grabbing her son's shoulder in a fierce grip. "Let us go home. Now." But Jake didn't respond. Instead, he turned to her, eyes wide, mouth slightly open, as if something went horribly wrong within him. "Mommy," he said slowly, a chill running through her veins at his tone. "I was playing and then it felt different." "What do you mean?" Her voice trembled. She knelt before him, searching his eyes. There was something alien behind his gaze. He looked at her, but it felt as if he were not there at all. "Mommy." Lily's voice pierced through, and Sarah turned to find her daughter sprinting through the crowd. Relief flooded over her, even as dread clenched tighter at her core. "Lily, what is it?" "I saw him. The man in my dreams. He's here." Lily shouted, and at that moment, the cheerful ambience dimmed under the weight of terror. The crowd became a restless sea, swaying in synchrony with the dread licking at Sarah's heels. A chill surged through the air, and the lights flickered again, more violently this time, as if they too dreaded what lurked in their midst. "Mommy, we have to go." Lily grasped Sarah's hand, terror etched onto her innocent face. Panic surged in Sarah's chest, choking her as she began to back away, pulling her children along with her. Behind them, the laughter echoed eerily, and from the corner of her eye, a figure loomed. Tall and dark, it was the silhouette from Lily's nightmares, its features obscured by shadows. The exact shape that haunted her dreams, that stood by their window, waiting, watching run. Sarah screamed, adrenaline igniting her limbs. They weaved through revelers, who suddenly appeared oblivious, captivated by the spectacle unfolding before them, leaving her hollow with fear. They were in a trance, under a spell that Sarah could feel but could not see. Barriers formed as Sarah pushed harder, her motherly instincts kicking into overdrive. She needed to protect them. Her heart raced faster than her feet, but the figure seemed inescapable, looming nearer with each desperate step. Just as they neared the exit, Sarah felt a cold breeze, followed by a whisper that sent chills down her spine. "Your children belong to me." The words ignited primal dread. She would not lose them. Not now. But as they dashed into the night, laughter and shrieks echoed behind, mingling with a sinister stillness that gripped the air. Dark thoughts twisted her mind. What truly lurked in the festival's shadows? As they burst out into the open, their breaths heavy, relief flooded over them momentarily. But then she turned. The figure loomed closer, stepping from the blanket of shadows, its face now visible in the flickering streetlight, a ghastly carving of grinning horror. Sarah shrieked, clutching her children tightly, but at which cost would she protect them? Would they evade the entity that now stalked them, or was the curse of spring merely beginning? The breath of night chilled the air as they raced away from the festival. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest, each thought a warning, a command to run faster. The streets darkened, twisting into an unfamiliar labyrinth that seemed to mock their frantic escape. "Mommy, what's happening?" Jake's voice trembled beside her, awakening a motherly instinct that churned her stomach. The ice in her veins melted away as a wave of protective fury surged within her. "I don't know, honey. Just hold on," she urged, pulling her children closer, her mind racing through threats both real and imagined. They turned down a dim alley, the shadows closing in around them like a shroud. Briefly, she paused to catch her breath, glancing over her shoulder. The figure was gone, but an unsettling silence hung in the air, suffocating and heavy. Did you see it, Mommy? Lily's small voice cut through the gloom, but it was thick with confusion and fear. It was the man with the big smile. Sarah knelt to face her daughter, swallowing hard. He's gone, sweetheart. We're safe. Just stay close. But inside her, dread twisted like a knife. They weren't safe. That figure could be anywhere, watching, waiting. The flickering festival lights had pulled back the veil, exposing the nightmare, but it lingered in the edges of her vision. Mommy? Jake whispered again, his expression vacant, almost detached. I didn't want to play anymore. I wanted to go home. Panic gripped her anew. His words, uncharacteristic and flat, coursed through her like cold water. Goosebumps covered her arms, she squeezed his shoulder. We're together, she insisted. But deep down, Sarah felt the creeping suspicion that something had indeed changed in him. The alley seemed endless. Each shadow splintered at movement, each sound wormed its way beneath her skin. We have to find a way out. She fought against the rising tide of despair, her hand tightening around Lily's as they dashed deeper into the darkened corridor. Suddenly, a shriek shattered the silence. It echoed and bounced off the damp walls. A flutter of hope surged through her. Someone might help. But as they rounded the corner, they stumbled upon the source, a group of children huddled together in a circle, their eyes wide with fright, their laughter an echo of their former joy tainted by despair. Come play. They coaxed, their smiles stretching too wide, their voices laced with an unnatural harmony that made Sarah's skin crawl. No! She shouted, shaking her head, clutching her kids tightly. We need to keep moving. But as they turned to flee, the children laughed and the sound vibrated through the air, splitting it like a blade. It filled Sarah's mind, drowning out her thoughts. The laughter, mingled with the whispers of her children urging her to join, felt like a heavy fog wrapping around her limbs. Mommy? Lily's voice broke through the chaos but waned under the laughter. It became a call for help that echoed back at her, distorted and dark. Don't listen. Sarah screamed, fighting against the compulsion. But it was like trying to swim against the current. The ripples of hysteria spread, dragging at their ankles, wanting to pull them in. A flicker of movement out of the corner of her eye made her throat tighten. The figure from the festival emerged from the shadows behind the children, its sharp teeth glinting, even in the dim light. It loomed taller, the grin stretching, more monstrous now, an invitation and a threat. Sarah stumbled backward, dragging her children away from that wicked smile. But where could they go? The laughter collapsed around them like waves crashing on a shore, drowning out everything but its sinister beckoning. Jake! Lily! We need to run. She felt herself losing grip on reality, the edges of the world fracturing like broken glass. But as they turned to flee, a sudden stillness fell. Time stretched, and a new whisper echoed in her ear, cold and foreboding, you can't escape who you truly are. Her heart stopped. What did it mean? In that moment of horror, she felt a pull inside her. A twinge of recognition. The world, once a nightmare, now felt like home. Was she the prey or was she the one meant to summon the shadows? The silence dissolved into chaos as Sarah yanked her kids down the alley, fear igniting every nerve. She didn't know where she was running, all she knew was that they had to get away from the sound of joy that twisted into something sinister. The children's laughter rang hollow, a mocking echo that dripped with malice. Mommy! Wait! Jake tugged at her, his little hand slipping slightly in her grip. Panic shot through Sarah. No! Stay close to me. She tightened her hold on her son just as they passed a broken street lamp. Its feeble light cast long shadows that danced grotesquely against the brick walls. Her heart pounded, every beat a frantic drum signaling the encroaching darkness. Why is this happening? The question looped in her mind, suffocating in the thick air. Why had they been drawn to the festival? Why had they strayed from safety? They turned another corner, stumbling into a wider street. The scene there stopped her in her tracks. It was a playground twisted by shadows, overgrown with weeds and grime. The swings creaked in the wind, swaying back and forth as if powered by unseen hands. "Come on, kids," she urged, rushing to the edge, but a chill whispered over her skin. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. The atmosphere pulsed thick with unease, the playground a ghost of memories. "Mommy, can we play?" Jake asked, his voice softening, the question veiled in innocence, but it struck her like a blow. "No, we can't. We need to find." The laughter returned, louder than ever, piercing through her resolve. The children's faces, void of joy, hovered as shadows at the perimeter, beckoning with twisted smiles. "Just a little play. It's fun." They chanted, their voices a cacophony that crawled over Sarah's skin, igniting fear in every fiber of her being. "Stay away from them!" Sarah shouted, but her voice shook, revealing her crumbling strength. Lily tugged her hand, eyes glazed, entranced. "But Mommy, they want us to join." "No!" Sarah screamed, jerking Lily back, her heart racing. She could feel the air thickening around them, an oppressive weight that smothered hope. Just then, from the shadows on the far side, the figure emerged. That unmistakable smile stretched wider, impossibly wider. It revealed rows of jagged teeth, glistening under the fractured streetlight. "Come play." The figure crooned, its voice soothing yet dripping with poison. Sarah's instincts screamed for her to flee, but her feet remained anchored, quaking with indecision. Just behind her children, those distorted faces swayed, their laughter harmonizing with the figure's dark lullaby. "Mommy. Please." Jake implored, confusion and fear mingling in his eyes. Terror clawed at Sarah. She could feel something ancient and sinister tugging at her heart, whispering dreadful truths about identity, about the darkness she had tried so hard to protect her children from. A terror so primal it transcended comprehension. "Run!" she finally shrieked, breaking the trance. Jake and Lily bolted as she yanked them away, but as they dashed into the recess of darkness, it felt as if the shadows themselves were stretching out to grab them. The laughter swelled, chasing them, swallowing everything else in a grotesque symphony of chaos. Sarah's pulse thundered in her ears, drowning out everything else. But amidst the cacophony, another whisper threaded through the same voice wrapped in shadows, that old, gnawing truth, "You're one of us." They stumbled out into the light of the street, but as her eyes adjusted, the world briefly flickered between reality and something else, something she couldn't comprehend. The smiling figure lingered at the playground's edge, watching them with intent, its grin never wavering. A quick glance at Jake and Lily, and dread froze in her chest again. What have we awakened? They pressed on, but doubt swirled like fog. Was there an escape from this nightmare, or were they merely one plaything in a more terrifying game? As they sprinted towards the distant streetlights, shadows flickering behind them, Sarah couldn't shake the sensation that something deeper, something they carried within, was now irreversibly unleashed. What awaited them in the light? Would it offer safety or draw them back into the dark? The streetlights flickered erratically, casting an eerie glow on Sarah's frantic escape. Her breath came in sharp gasps, each inhale filled with the taste of fear. She looked back, and the playground now seemed a distant nightmare, yet the laughter persisted, echoing menacingly in her mind. "Jake! Lily! Keep running!" Sarah urged, but her voice was laced with urgency, her heart sinking as she felt time slipping away. The shadows danced closer, swarming at the edges of her vision, threatening to engulf them if they faltered even for a moment. "Mommy, where are we going?" Jake's eyes were wide, fear etched deep in his small face. He pulled at her arm, his grip desperate. "Anywhere but here," she yelled, frustration bubbling over. The path ahead seemed to twist and warp underfoot, confusing. The darkness ahead felt alive, a breathing entity watching and waiting. They sprinted past a worn brick building, the scent of mildew seeping into the rainy air. Sarah darted a glance toward the entrance and noticed a faint orange glow emanating from the windows. It flickered like a beacon. Hope rose only to be snuffed out by another chorus of laughter, twisting her stomach into knots. "Mommy!" Lily cried, "I don't like this game anymore." In that moment, Sarah felt a profound weight settle over her, as if the world itself mourned their plight. Shadows crept closer, elongating under the streetlight. Anxiety gripped her. What kind of malice had they stumbled into? She flung open the door of the building, urging her children inside. The moment they crossed the threshold, an unnatural chill swept through her, freezing her core. The room was dark, sparsely filled with dust-coated furniture and shelves lined with rotting books. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of decay. "Stay close," she whispered sharply. Her pulse thundered in her ears as she scanned the space for a hiding spot. "Mommy, I'm scared." Jake's voice trembled, and guilt clawed at Sarah. Was it her fault they were here lost in darkness? "Just listen to me." She grabbed a battered coat from a nearby chair and wrapped it around her children as best she could. They huddled together, breaths mingling in the cold air, but then, from far down the dark hallway, the laughter returned. It echoed in the building like a warped chorus bleeding from the walls. Sarah felt her heart drop even further. "We have to find a way out," she muttered, but panic was seeping in. Were they even in the right place? They moved cautiously down the hallway, the shadows whispering promises of despair. As she stepped forward, a painting hanging on the wall caught her eye. The twisted faces grinned back, their expressions eerily familiar. Children again, with repetitions of that same malevolent joy. An overwhelming urge to turn back washed over her. Suddenly, an ominous thump echoed from the far end of the hallway. It sounded like something had fallen, or something else lurking just out of sight. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The kids needed to stay calm, but fear bubbled underneath, threatening to break free. "Please, just stay quiet," her voice trembled, barely a whisper now. Jake and Lily nodded, their wide eyes glued to their mother as they pressed closer together. Then the corridor light flickered, revealing that grotesque figure again, tall, looming. The jagged smile cut across its face, sharper and more pronounced than before, teeth glistening maliciously in the dim light. "Why don't you come back and play?" It beckoned, its voice slithering through the air, cool and tantalizing. "We've missed you." Panic surged, and Sarah yanked her children back. But the dark figure pointed down the hallway, and something erupted within her, a realization clawing at her mind. This was no ordinary nightmare. This was a trap. The truth loomed near, and Sarah's heart buzzed with dread. Whatever hunted them didn't just want to play. It wanted to claim them. "Run!" she screamed, and they bolted into the unknown. Shadows flared around them, creeping closer with each desperate step. But as they dashed deeper into the building, another question gnawed at her. What if this wasn't just a game? What if they were the pieces in a dark puzzle that had yet to unfold? The walls shuddered as they slid past, fear ambushing their every footfall, leaving Sarah wondering if escape was still a possibility or if the darkness had already claimed them as its own. With every hurried breath, she sensed the toll of their choices. The deeper they went, the more it felt like they were drawing closer to a dreadful reckoning. What lay at the end of the corridor? Would light shine through the shadows, or would they find themselves trapped forever in the game they could not comprehend? They ran through the musty corridor, hearts pounding in sync with the frantic rhythm of their escape. Shadows lurked in every corner, breathing down their necks like a predator stalking its prey. The laughter twisted in the air, wrapping around them as if the darkness was a living entity, coaxing them deeper into its grasp. Suddenly, Sarah skidded to a halt. Up ahead, a door swung ajar, the rusty hinges groaning in protest. An instinct, raw and primal, urged her forward. "In there!" She pointed, her voice choking on terror. The children followed, their small legs pumping as they pushed through the doorway. Inside was an old storage room, the suffocating air clogged with dust, betrayal, and a lingering stale sweetness that stung their noses. Boxes lay strewn about, giant upturned tombstones in this forgotten grave of a home. "Mommy, I can't breathe," Jake gasped, trembling as he clutched Lily's hand tightly. Sarah knelt down, her eyes darting frantically. "Just hold my arm," she rasped, trying to calm them, but her own heart raced like a wild animal caught in a snare. They huddled, seeking safety in numbers, their breaths quick and shallow, but the laughter pierced through the door, closer now. It thundered, a cacophony of gleeful malice. "Playtime's not over yet." It howled, echoing like a demonic wind through the room. Sarah's stomach churned. How could a laugh sound so sinister? Then, a scuffle. Something knocked against the door, and it trembled on its hinges. Sarah's blood ran cold as she recognized that sound. It was the unmistakable rhythm of tiny feet scampering against the floor, accompanied by giggles that were too high, too sweet, and marred by something grotesque. "Shoo!" She pressed a finger to her lips, but Jake shivered with fear, unyielding. Their sanctuary could shatter any moment. With every knock, her resolve crumbled a little more. "Mommy, I'm scared," Jake whispered, tearing her heart apart. "Me too," she confessed quietly, glancing at the door. "But we have to be brave. We'll find a way out." She took a deep breath and turned to the room, searching for anything they might use to defend themselves. Old tools, forgotten relics of domesticity, littered the workbench in the corner. "Quick, grab that." Sarah nodded toward a rusty crowbar, gripping its weight as if it could offer protection. The door rattled again, more insistent this time. "Just hold on, okay? We won't let it in," Sarah promised, swinging the crowbar like a shield. With every minute that passed, her mind raced not just with the nightmare closing in but also with thoughts of their past. Had they crossed a line? What if this was punishment for some sin she wasn't aware they'd committed? The door splintered, light flooding the cracks like fingers reaching for them. The children shrieked, their small voices amplifying the terror that clawed at her chest. "Now!" She threw the door open with all her strength, and they stumbled out, blinded by the sudden brightness. They stood in a vast, empty room, walls stretching high above them as if they were swallowed whole. The shadows danced even here, flickers of life darting out of sight. Flickering lights above buzzing louder with each threat. "Where are we?" Lily whimpered. "I don't know," Sarah answered, the truth churning in her throat. Then she spotted it, a staircase spiraling down into the abyss. "This way!" She yelled, urging her kids toward that literal descent into darkness. But as they approached, the laughter crescendoed again, now mocking, reverberating off the walls, echoing like a mantra in her ears. "Come play with us, come play." Fear clawed at her, the door behind them creaked ominously. Shadows swirled around her, taunting, whispering their terrible secrets. "Don't look back," she shouted, pulling the children close, but every muscle in her screamed to turn, to confront the horror pursuing them. With each step closer to the staircase, dread seeped deeper into her bones. She could feel the grasping tendrils of insanity creeping in. One final thought seared through her mind: what awaited them at the bottom of those stairs? And as they plunged into the depth, darkness enveloped them completely. Would they emerge into safety or into a nightmare from which they might never wake? This maze of shadows wasn't just playing with them. It was ready to unfold its true nature, and the stakes were rising. The spiral staircase twisted downward, each step creaking ominously underfoot as if protesting their descent. The air grew heavier, pregnant with an unsettling stillness that threatened to suffocate them. Sarah glanced back. She could almost feel the heat of the laughter behind them, practically tickling her neck. It had promised to follow, to play, but they dared not look. "Mommy?" Jake's voice trembled, breaking the silence like glass shattering in a quiet room. What if it gets us?" "Just a little further," Sarah urged, her voice steadier than her racing heart. She gripped the crowbar tighter, knuckles white. The darkness loomed thick, wrapping around them like a suffocating cocoon. The flickering lights above danced erratically, casting sharp shadows that darted and skittered across the walls, alive with malevolence. Sarah's chest tightened. Each pulse resonated with a primal fear she'd never felt before, a fear that whispered promises of things better left unimagined. Lily clutched Jake's hand, her grip faltering as they descended further. "Mommy, I feel wrong. Like something's watching us." "Nothing is watching us, sweetie," Sarah lied, trying to sound brave. But an electric chill sliced through the air, sending goosebumps racing down her arms. She stopped, straining her ears against the unnatural stillness, listening. A distant sound, faint but unmistakable, a soft humming, a lullaby laced with something dark. It seeped from the shadows, echoing off the cold stone walls. "Do you hear that?" Sarah whispered, her breath shallow and hurried. It felt alive, wrapping around them in a chilling embrace. "Please, let us go back," Jake pleaded, eyes wide with fear. "No!" Sarah snapped, urgency spilling from her voice. There was no way back. They had to move forward, into the darkness that seductively beckoned them. "We have to find a way out." As they continued onward, the staircase opened to a dimly lit corridor, the air thick with dampness. Shadows shifted like living things, slinking along the walls. Sarah pushed onward, her legs trembling but fueled by desperation. At the end of the narrow hall, a faint glow seeped through a door slightly ajar. Sarah approached hesitantly, hearts pounding dangerously loud in her ears. She pushed the door wide, revealing an expansive room filled with toys, discarded dolls with cracked porcelain faces, rusted bicycles, and teddy bears with eyes that seemed too real. "Look at all of this," Lily gasped, stepping inside, unwittingly crossing the threshold into further madness. "No! Stay close." Sarah clawed at her, yanking her back just as a doll's head turned to follow their movement. Sarah's body went rigid. "We have to go." But it was too late. The door slammed behind them, the sound echoing like an executioner's gavel. The laughter swelled, filling the room, enveloping them in a tide of horror. Playtime's begun. Playtime never ends. The voices were childlike but sinister, each word sent icy tendrils of panic racing through her veins. "Stop it. Just stop." Jake shouted, blood-curdling fear etched across his face. "Listen to your son." A voice echoed from nowhere, sending chills down Sarah's spine as it twisted through the air. "You should play nicely and forever." Breath caught in her throat as the shadows around them began to swirl, coiling and writhing like serpents poised to strike. The laughter swelled again, shaking the very foundation of the room. "Mommy," Jake cried, "what do we do?" But Sarah didn't have an answer. The room was closing in, suffocating. They would either succumb to the madness or find a way to break free from this living nightmare. As the walls began to inch closer, shadows stretching toward them, Sarah's legs trembled with the weight of their fear. Then she spotted something glimmering in the corner, a tarnished key lying amidst the debris. Hope flickered like a candle. Could it be their salvation or yet another trap in this sinister maze? With its beckoning light, the choice loomed ahead of them, to chase fleeting hope or succumb to the nightmarish horrors that cradled them. Time was running out. As a chilling wind swept through the room, catching their breath, Sarah knew they had to act fast. But could they trust what lay ahead? What awaited them beyond the shadows? And as darkness pressed upon them, ready to snuff out their light, one chilling question hung in the air: was escaping this darkness even possible? The laughter echoed louder, taunting them, wrapping around them like chains. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest. The key shimmered, almost mocking her desperation. Would turning it in the lock lead them to safety or right into the jaws of whatever monstrous fate awaited? "Mommy, hurry!" Jake wept, his voice a quaking whisper that sent jolts of fear through her. She knew she couldn't wait. Gathering the remnants of her resolve, she lunged for the key, her fingers trembling but steady. With a swift motion, she grabbed it off the ground, feeling its cool, metallic weight pulse against her palm. The moment was too quiet, too still, the room hanging in a liminal space between dread and possibility. Sarah turned toward the door, her breath hitching as the shadows slithered closer, whispering their malevolence in a suffocating dance around them. Sarah Lily's voice was barely above a whisper now, her wide eyes filled with terror that threatened to drown them all. What if it likes us? What if it wants to play forever? Shoo, don't say that. Sarah snapped, a surge of panic making her voice sharp. There was no time for doubts or questions. They needed to move. She lunged for the door, pressing the key against the old lock, her hands shaking uncontrollably. With a deep breath, she twisted. The lock clicked. Her heart leapt, a momentary sparkle of hope, but it went dark. The lights flickered out, plunging them into a void where only the laughter remained. It twisted, echoing through the room as though it had taken on a life of its own, mocking her every breath. "Mommy!" Jake cried, but his voice was swallowed by the dark. With her heart in her throat and desperation clawing at her insides, Sarah threw the door open. A rush of cold air flooded in, pushing against her, but she stumbled through it, dragging her kids behind her. It felt like stepping through a portal into hell, the air thick and oppressive, every heartbeat a countdown to an undefined horror. The corridor they entered was lined with faded portraits, children frozen in time, smiles wide yet empty, eyes that seemed to follow them. Each step felt heavy, each breath a struggle. The flickering lights barely illuminated the twisted faces of the painted children. "Mommy, make it stop." Lily whimpered, clutching her brother's hand like a lifeline. "I'm trying." Sarah snapped, urgency anchoring her actions. They had to escape this nightmare. Ahead, a doorway emerged, bathed in an otherworldly glow. It pulsed rhythmically, a heartbeat drawing them closer, alluring yet terrifying. The laughter now morphed into a sinister chant, words entwined in a taunting melody that chilled her bones. Play with us, I don't want to play." Jake shouted, fear splintering his voice. "Mommy, what's happening?" "Focus on my voice." Sarah instructed, her own heart caught in a vice of panic. She stepped toward the door, compelled something primal urging her forward, though every instinct screamed to turn and run. The door creaked open, revealing a world beyond, a twisted playground of warped toys, each moving of its own accord, twisting and swaying in the dim light. Shadows flickered about, more alive than the darkness behind them. "Mommy, please!" Lily shrieked as mist curled around their feet, entangling them. She was brighter, younger, more susceptible to being ensnared by whatever lay beyond, but as Sarah opened her mouth to respond, a chilling wind erupted from the door, harsh and merciless, sweeping her into the playground of lost innocence. The laughter swelled, mingling with the sound of heavy footsteps echoing behind them, a relentless pursuit driven by an unseen force. "Sarah!" Jake pulled at her sleeve, eyes darting wildly. To retreat meant facing the twisting darkness behind, to step forward was to face the horrors lurking ahead. A grotesque puppet wobbled forward, sinister and smiling, its voice cutting through the chaos, whispering promises of bittersweet play. "Come join, you'll never leave." Time hung thin. With shadows creeping closer and the laughter reaching a fever pitch, Sarah's mind raced. In this moment, the decision crackled with urgency. They could dive deeper into this playground of horrors, thinking only of escape, or stumble back into the clutches of the unknown, but which path would seal their fate? And as a chilling chill swept in, the question hung heavy: what were the true faces behind the laughter? What awaited them in the abyss? The thick mist spiraled around their ankles, a ghostly grip pulling them toward the playground of lost innocence. Sarah's heart raced as she struggled to keep her children tethered to her side. The air buzzed with static, like the energy before a storm, and the laughter danced maddeningly around them, twisting into shapes of despair. "Stay close," she barked, though dread clawed at the edges of her voice. The fleeting flicker of hope felt distant now, fading as the puppet continued its unsettling advance. Its porcelain face, cracked and grinning, made Sarah's skin crawl. Come play. Forever is so much fun. The puppet's voice dripped with syrupy sweetness, a cruel mockery of the joyful innocence it pretended to embody. Every syllable sent a shiver down her spine like ice water spilling over her shoulders. Jake whimpered, his little feet shuffling uneasily. What does it mean, Mommy? I don't know, baby. Just don't listen to it. She clutched his hand tighter, but the grip of the mist around their legs only tightened, a constricting caress of malevolence. The playground loomed ahead, revealing a collection of nightmarish toys. Rusty swings creaked, and the merry-go-round spun wildly, its riders long gone. Each toy seemed to beckon, promising joyous revelry in a malevolent game that knew no end. A shriek split the air, echoing against the warped metal and peeling paint. Sarah's heart jolted as a ball bounced past them, stained and dirty, rolling towards a far corner where shadows cloaked whatever horror truly lay hidden. Mommy, I want to go home. Lily cried, her youthful spirit nearly extinguished by the weight of the scene. Me too, sweetheart. Sarah fought to keep her voice steady, but fear gnawed at her. They needed to move. They couldn't linger. With her heart thudding in her chest like a war drum, she pulled Jake and Lily forward. Each step felt heavier, as if the ground drank in their anxiety. The air grew thick with the scent of decay and rust, a biting tang that pricked at her throat. Just then, the puppet stopped. A sickly grin stretched wider across its face. Playing is fun when you have company. Join us, forever, its voice whispered, echoing through the fog. The sound echoed around them, stealing away Sarah's strength like a thief in the night. A burst of energy surged through Sarah. This was not a game. No. We are not playing. She shouted, her voice firm in the face of nightmare. In that instant, the puppet froze, eyes wide and empty. Then, it tilted its head, as if considering her words, and laughed. A high, shrill sound pierced through the mist. Behind them, the shadows swirled menacingly, forming into larger, darker shapes. A disfigured creature with elongated limbs surged forward, eyes glowing an unnatural green. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Run! She screamed, adrenaline firing her limbs into motion. They sprinted into the twisted playground, the laughter morphing into a furious chorus that surrounded them, the ground trembling beneath their feet. I can't. Jake gasped, his little lungs straining. It's too fast. Mommy. A looming wall of shadow approached like a tidal wave. They had no choice but to dart into a nearby exit, a crooked archway that led deeper into the grotesque landscape. The laughter crescendoed behind them, raucous and contemptuous, despairing yet alive. As they stumbled into a cavernous room, Sarah spun, scanning the darkness for escape routes. An enormous carousel dominated the space, its colorful horses still and silent, but every one of them seemed to watch with eager anticipation. Above it, a flickering light cast long shadows that danced like specters against the walls. Mommy, make it stop! Lily cried, panic-laced tears spilling down her cheeks. Just as the last remnants of hope began to wane, the laughter abruptly ceased, leaving an almost deafening silence that felt pregnant with possibilities, dark, looming possibilities. For a moment, an eerie calm enveloped the room, and then a voice hissed, low and slithering, "You thought you could escape?" A shiver of dread snaked down Sarah's spine. The question lingered, biting deep into her thoughts. What was waiting in this cursed game as the darkness writhed closer? And amidst the unsettling quiet, she realized the truth: this nightmare had only just begun. The silence stretched like a taut wire, and before Sarah could catch her breath, shadows began to form shapes again. They flickered in and out, shifting like phantoms that danced to the rhythm of a heartbeat that felt all too familiar. "What do you want from us?" she shouted, her voice slicing through the stillness, laced with anger and defiance. A figure stepped into the light, the puppet looming larger, its grin grotesque and knowing. "We just want to play," it teased, mocking her with a sing-song tone. "Forever and ever, not a chance." Sarah seethed, fury boiling within her. "I'll never let you take my children." She turned to Jake and Lily, their tear-streaked faces pleading for safety. Each swollen heartbeat pulsed with the urgency of a mother's love. They had come too far to give in now. The carousel faintly twinkled, its painted horses frozen in sinister anticipation, waiting. Sarah squared her shoulders and gripped the crowbar tightly. "We're not playthings." She propelled forward, directing her children as they pushed through the looming darkness. Behind them, the laughter swelled, echoing like thunder. "No! Don't leave!" The puppets whined, writhing as the shadows closed in tighter. "Mommy, run! Please!" Jake tugged at her sleeve, stumbling slightly under the grip of terror. "I'm trying!" Sarah screamed back, propelling them towards the exit, her heart hammering like a war drum. The ground felt alive beneath their feet, trembling as though the playground itself yearned to ensnare them in its clutches. But as they neared the carousel, a flicker of resolve ignited within Sarah. The moment she stepped onto the carousel's platform, a rush of energy coursed through her old memories, old stories flashing through her mind like a distant dream, guiding her. "Help!" A cry rang out from the shadows, piercing the fabric of her determination. But the moment passed, she couldn't let herself be swayed. She had to push back, to reclaim her children not just from the horrors of this place but from the sinister whispers that echoed from within. "Hold on tight!" she yelled, gripping each child's hand, and spun the carousel. The bright colors whirled around them, creating a barrier against the shadowy forms that recoiled just outside its light. "Focus on me. We're leaving." The puppets screamed, their voices melding into a cacophony of fury as they tried to pull the children away. But this time, the grip of fear that had once insinuated itself around their hearts began to loosen. Sarah felt strength surge through her. She was their anchor, their protector. The carousel spun faster, the laughter dimming as the light burst brighter, forcing back the shadows. "I want to let you take them," she roared, and with a final push, the world erupted in brightness. The trio tumbled off the carousel and into blinding daylight. They landed on the grass of their front yard, sun shining brightly overhead, warmth flooding over them. The festival festivities hummed faintly in the distance, laughter blooming like flowers, yet all felt strangely serene. "What just happened?" Jake whimpered, confusion painted on his little face. "We're home," Sarah gasped, pulling her children closer, overwhelmed with relief. But beneath the surface, lingering shadows still danced on the edges of her mind. The whispers faded, but the weight of what had just occurred pressed heavily on her heart. "But what do we do now?" Lily asked, breaking her reverie. "We live," Sarah replied, voice firm yet gentle. "We live." But deep down, she understood they would have to remain vigilant. The origins of that darkness, fraught with nightmares and curses, could never truly vanish. She hugged them tighter, the bright day contrasting sharply with the horrors they had faced. "Let us not go back to that festival," Jake pleaded, eyes wide with remnants of fear. "Agreed," Sarah said, planting a tender kiss on each child's forehead. Suddenly, a flicker of darkness caught her eye from the corner of their yard. A shadow moved. The hairs on her neck prickled. Sarah, a chill summoned her name on the wind, nagging at her. But for now, she wouldn't succumb to those fears. She had her children, and that was all that mattered. The demons they had encountered today might always lurk near, but they would embrace each other in their ordinary joys, safeguarding their hearts and building walls against the darkness. Life would carry on, one day at a time. Moments of quiet laughter called from a distance, and as the sun hung low, casting long twilight shadows, Sarah breathed deeply, feeling hope wrap its arms around them. They would journey forward together, no matter what horrors the future might hold. But even as the evening dimmed, she made a silent vow: they would never again become playground fodder for whatever horrors awaited in the shadows. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss our next exclusive stories that dig deep into the human psyche. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, feeding us your support to keep delivering these thrilling tales that we want to hear from you. flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. What do you think really happened to Sarah and her kids? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who you know need to see this conclusion. Let's build this community together.